Good morning, family. Welcome to today's Lessons for Life. Today's Monday, July 6, 2009. And today we're reading 2 Samuel chapter 13. And it's an interesting story. But as always, I encourage you to read it for yourself. See what you get from it. Email us and we will put it on the blog. But we see in this chapter, as you read through the story, you have to really read it for yourself. That it's talking about David's sons, Amnon and Absalom. And I'll just jump right into what I saw, and when I bring it for Lessons for Life, you have to read it for yourself to get the actual story. But we've said even before with David and Bathsheba, you see how there was an improper relationship. David took something that didn't belong to him, and you actually see the same thing happening now with his son, where a brother takes his other brother's sister and lies with her. So he takes something that once again doesn't belong to him. So one thing I noted immediately was that as we saw David do, now his son also does. So that brings up an important lessons for life that we've mentioned even before about what the father or what the parents do. Many times will go down to the children, and children may repeat through that same process. So it's important for two parts: for the parents to I guess even explain some of the things that they did that they know was wrong to their children, so that the children don't repeat the same mistakes or the same errors that the parents have done. Also, from a child's perspective, it's important not to follow things that your parents have done, that you've seen that have not been successful, that have not been right, because then you'll just repeat a bad habit, and it'll become a habit. So we see that the Abner really kind of repeats what David does, and from that whole story, it's just, I guess my main feeling when I was reading the story was that there's so many people in the world for you to have a relationship with. There's no reason to have to be with someone, a close family member, a close relative, in any capacity. So that was, you of course see the error in that. But as I read through, I was attempting to think, like I said before, when to bring up the positive and focus on the positive. The only thing I kind of saw admirable from this chapter was, I guess, Absalom. But what he did was he actually took vengeance, and he killed his brother because of what he had did to his sister. But in actuality, because Absalom had to hide after that, he knows what he did wasn't completely right too, because if there's something you're doing that's right, there's no reason for you then to hide yourself. So he hid, and he had to leave his family because of what he had done. So there wasn't that wasn't completely altogether right too. It's just, I guess, just because he stood up for what had to be done, I guess, to his brother. And another thing that we see here, I know I'm jumping around, but so we see Amnon wasn't right, of course. Absalom, I kind of admired what he did, but he wasn't right either. There was other means to do what he ended up doing, or there was other ways to handle that particular matter, and his wasn't right because he knew it wasn't right, and that's why he hid. And then another thing that we can see too is David, because when I saw what happened and that David knew about it, and David didn't appropriately handle the situation at all. I didn't see that he addressed the situation at all. So him being the father and really supposed to be the one watching out for all of his children, sons and daughters, he didn't handle the situation, because he didn't, it just said that he was destroyed or something like that, but he didn't address it in any way. So that's why Absalom had to step forward and do something. So we actually see a couple of things of what people did that wasn't particularly right, and that's what we have to go on for Lessons for Life for this morning. So one is the son repeating what David had done from the last two chapters we were reading about. And then we also remember that there's no reason to have a close relationship with any close family member, have any kind of inappropriate relationship with any close family member, because there's so many people in the world for you to have a relationship with. So it's kind of ridiculous. And then also, if you do something and you know you're right, then there's no reason to hide after that. And then also about David not being a particularly good father in that regard, because he didn't address the situation that his son did wrong. And that's even why, like I said from the beginning, why this issue even might have came up, because he didn't address his own situation what he had done wrong, and maybe even explain to his children what he done wrong. So, as parents, I think we need to sit down and explain to our children things that we've done wrong. That way they don't repeat it, and they don't go through the same thing, and then it continually repeat down the line of your generations. So that's what I got from today's lesson for life. There's a couple of different things in there. With that, create yourself a wonderfully blessed day today, and we'll talk again tomorrow.